Welcome to this newest episode of Tech Inspection, the show where we check out and learn about everything in drag racing. This week we are going to be checking out four-link suspensions, talking about the geometry and how they get set up, and we have guests John Salemi and Rickie Jones Jr. coming on to talk to us. But first, I want to jump into my favorite part, the fun segment. Wagner, did you get that link I sent you?
Yeah. I hadn't seen that release yet, and let me just say, a C8 Z06 naturally aspirated with a flat plane crank zinging to the moon sounds delicious.
Oh, dude, I couldn't agree more because if you don't know, I definitely watch as we go through this, but basically the new C8 Z06, instead of being supercharged or twin turboed or whatever, they're actually going to a much smaller displacement 5.5 liter V8 that's going to be naturally aspirated, and basically they were kind of going back to the roots of the C6 Z06 that so many people love. It's a naturally aspirated motor that makes really good power, but this one, 5.5 liter, flat plane crank, and it's going to make between 6 and 650 horsepower naturally aspirated, and that's crazy impressive for such a small motor.
Yeah, that's definitely harkens back to the old Trans Am days of the 302 and the original first gen Camaros, and having an engine like that you can absolutely just smash on, can zing to the moon. It really speaks volumes to who they're gearing that car towards, that they want the enthusiasts they're going to take it out and beat on it. And the fact that all the other technology that's packed in these cars and the reviews they've had so far, it's going to be a pretty potent package.
Oh yeah, and I'm sure the car is going to be light. I mean, Corvettes have never been, super heavy whenever they debut a new body, and as you can see from some of the pictures, that we've shown, that has a totally different body style. There's definitely different ground effects in a wing, but that was just something when I was scrolling through, looking on the internet, that I thought was really, really cool, and I wanted to bring it on the show and give it the screen time it deserves. But now, I believe we have Rickie on the line. Rickie, what is going on, man?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Doing well. So, kind of like we gave you the rundown a little bit, we're talking about four links today, and we just have a couple questions set up. I'll ask you a question, Wagner will ask you a question, and so forth. But first off, I just wanted to ask you and see, what would you say are some of the most common misconceptions and mistakes that racers make when it comes to their four links, whether they have a brand new car and they're setting it up for their first time out, or they're trying to make adjustments depending on the track and tires they're running?
Well, I would say maybe the most common would be that when guys go to make a change, they try to make too big of a change. The four link is actually pretty sensitive, and that's what's led us to a lot of the development of the products that we have. But yeah, when some guys, they go to make a change, they make way too big a move, and then hey, the car's upset, and they get frustrated real easy. But yeah, that's probably, I would say, the number one thing. Or to think that hey, there's some magic setting for every car out there. Every car really has its own happy place, and it's all about trying to work into that and find it for your application, your car. So,
Kind of going off of that, Rickie, as a racer, when you're looking, the track's always change. You might have to make some four link adjustments. What kind of adjustments should racers be thinking about making? What should be the first, the kind of the order of operations as far as adjustments that they should make if needed?
well, one of the things the way I kind of approach things is like with the race pack, we have shock travel sensors on all four corners. As the well, with big tire racing anyway, we're always looking at how much we're squatting on the shock travel sensor, and you'll notice, if you really study your data and look at things, that as the track starts to heat up or maybe it starts to get slick, you'll lose squat on the shock. So one of the easiest ways to put squat back in the car is to adjust the four link. And so if you can kind of figure out, through making some runs that, hey, I like it when my car squats X amount, whether the track's good or bad, then you can learn to say, hey, if I move the four link this much, I can get right back to where I was. So
Kind of going along that same line of questioning, I was curious how you set up and adjust a four-link suspension on, like, say, a radial car versus a slick car. So we'll just keep the car constant. We'll just say it's a 3,000 horsepower twin turbo, Pro Mod chassis, and maybe sometimes they compete in RVW, and maybe sometimes they compete in Pro Modified. How would you change the four-link going from like a radial to a slick on a car like that?
Yeah, absolutely, and that's great. Great question. So, like with, let's just say Stevie Fast, he's well-known racer.
Perfect.
With the Shadow car that he has currently, it's the same chassis, same car, and it's actually won U.S. Nationals and lights out and everything else. With the same chassis. It's just a matter of swapping a few parts and getting all the adjustments correct for each application. But yeah, typically with a big tire car, we're running the four link in some sort of a area where we're running squat, and with a radial car you're running anti-squat, where you're actually trying to push the tire in the ground much harder and separate the shock, where it's kind of the opposite with a big tire. Mostly because the radial tire, there's the sidewall is so stiff that you have to push down on it, and you can. With a big tire, the sidewall is so soft that if you try to load it too much, it'll just wrinkle up real bad and just start to tire shake. So that's really kind of the two completely different setups, and they take their own thing with shocks and four link and weight and everything else that goes in with it. But yeah, it is completely different, but still able to get there with the same car.
You have racers that you deal with racers at all different levels. You guys with what you do there at RJ, world championships, multiple levels. For the average grassroots bracket racer, like I'm gonna go out and help my dad set up his four link car or work on it. When I crawl underneath there and I know that we're trying to like sort this car out a little bit more, where should I look to start making like my first four link adjustment?
Well, like I get calls all the time, and we have a consulting service for guys that are kind of lost or having issues. So at that point, I would say if you're lost and you're struggling, give us a call. We're professionals, and like kind of the misconception is, hey, that there's one magic place for everything to be, and that's really from what we found, kind of not the case. Depends on wheelbase, depends on your weight percentage, depends on what kind of shocks you're using, what your tire is, what your track prep is like, local track prep. So like through years of experience here, we've developed kind of a database of kind of where we need to be with certain applications, to where I have a questionnaire form I'll have you fill out. We'll go through, talk with you on the phone, help people, and we'll kind of come up with, hey, if this was my car in this application, this is where I would put it, and but really, one of the things that I would say too is a lot of times the suspension gets overlooked as far as maintenance goes. There's a lot of cars out there that's been running for 20 years, let's say bracket car, and hey, maybe you change your oil in your engine, and you change your valve springs, and you're doing all this stuff. You're working on your tranny or your converter, but there's some guys that do brag, hey, I've got 2 years on my tires and maybe 10 years or more on all their suspension parts, and if you go underneath, I have these cars that come in my shop like that, and you get down there and it's like, hey man, these rod ends are sloppy, the bolts are egg shaped. It's surprising that this thing hasn't failed, but it's definitely good to just go down there, make sure you don't fill rod ends that are real sloppy, look for things that could fail, give us a call and we can help you, get those parts replaced and keep you safe. So that's the last thing you want to do, is have a $40 Heim joint fail on you, and that your whole car and everything you got's in the wall, plus your safety. So
I think our viewers, real quick, Brian, need to go back, rewind, and listen to that segment again right there, because what Rickie talked about as far as every setup is different, there is no magic bullet, and maintenance your junk. Plain and simple. I mean, that's great advice.
Absolutely. Yeah. I agree 100%. I want to go back. You had mentioned track prep, and I actually had a question queued up for you specifically about that. Keeping the car constant, what are some adjustments, like the direction and angle and stuff, that you would say that you would adjust a four link in a car, say going from a track that's set on kill, it is prepped beyond prepped, something back east, big race, versus a track that's, maybe a local track that doesn't see as much traffic, so they don't spend as much money on prep. How would you adjust the four link differently between those two scenarios in the same exact car?
Typically, like if let's just say it's a bracket car, maybe it's a, or a top sportsman style car. There's hundreds of those across the country. And if you're struggling to get down the track, one of the things, like if the track prep is not ideal, especially down track, where you're trying to get loose on the top end, typically some sort of four link where it's maybe a little longer or lower will just give it a little bit more leverage to keep the tire hooked up, and keep the car more stable. Um, but at the same time, if the track is too good, you get on a track that's too good and you've got too long a four link with too much leverage, that's where you can get into those tire shake issues where, hey, it's wadded up. So basically, you just got to try to, and there's other things you can do too, besides just four link. If you're on a bad track, you can maybe put some more spoiler in it, wicker bill, move some weight, adjust your shocks, so there's so many things on the chassis that you can tune to try to optimize for your location, and just try to be consistent. Not everybody's racing heads up. A lot of guys are just trying to be consistent, run the number, splitting thous, and knowing this, getting to know your car and knowing how the chassis setup works from front to back is, to me, one of the most important things you can do as a racer to learn. And also we're here to help with that. So,
Man, Ricky, that just like this little interview right here has packed so much information into this. It's like a powerful little flavor bite of drag racing information that, I learned a lot here. And, unfortunately, we have this limited time. We appreciate you coming on, but we definitely would love to throw you back on the list to bring you on for other shows for sure, just because of your sheer wealth of knowledge across the board is, not only as a driver, tuning cars, the shop with what you guys do. It's a really good kind of I don't even know a way to describe it, just a place for racers that, if they have questions, to hit you guys up, because you do more than just build cars. You sling parts, you help people understand it, and that's very important. And, I think that's great that you came on to help us out.
Hey, you guys are welcome. Honestly, that's the most fun part of my job, is helping racers, win, including the team that we work for. So, but yeah, we're here to help, and we appreciate everybody, and hope everybody stays safe through all this craziness, and we can't wait to get back racing. So
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Ricky. We appreciate it.
you're welcome, guys. Take care.
Well, that was really nice having Ricky on the show. Really cool to talk to him and get all of his input on a lot of different things, because I love that he brought up the maintenance, just general, simple maintenance, like, hey, check your stuff, because that's something that comes up on shows pretty consistently, almost every week. It's like, just change your oil, like check your rod ends, check, like very simple stuff that can make or break a race car.
Well, the thing you got to remember too is just the sheer level of experience that is built into his DNA from, his father, Rick Jones. Well, he's driven cars, won events. Their shop's racked up multiple championships. They help Eric Enders, Jed Coughlin over at Elite Motorsports. So I mean, you're not going to get much better information from them for sure.
Yeah, nope, not at all. So next we have John Salemi on the line right now. John, what's going on, man?
How you guys doing today?
Doing pretty good. No, definitely no complaints. We're lucky to have you on the show. Glad we were able to catch you at a good time. So we already gave you a little bit of a breakdown. We're talking about four links and suspension, and I'll just kick it right off with my first question I had queued up for you, and it's how does four link impact the rest of the suspension components on a vehicle?
Well, I mean, it's the critical point. I guess you could say it's how the car does what it does, whether it picks up, goes down, moves forward. All the energy points are transferred through the four link. Of course, your shock absorbers, your anti-rotation device, and the structure of the car also have a lot to do with what the four link does and your center of gravity and where the engine is and so on and so forth. But yeah, the how does it affect the other suspension point? Well, I mean, ultimately, it is the first moving outside of the tire. It's transferring all the energy into the rest of the car. So ultimately, it's probably one of the most important things on the car as far as structure goes, um, along with the differential housing and everything else. But in the stuff that I deal with, blown door slammers and whether they're on a radial tire or a bias ply slick tire, um, it is a critical component to the way that my brother and I always look at the four link. Um, it's funny that I'm on the four link show because I'm not like a big four link changer swinging bars type of guy. The God's honest truth is on the Purple Rain car that Melanie drives, my wife, in 2015, about 2 months after we debuted the car, myself and Jeff Pierce put the four link in a spot, and it's God's honest truth. It's never ever moved from there again. Um, it's a window, right? Um, and it's not, to me, it's not the be all end all of having your balance of the car, which is to me the most important thing in a drag race car or any racing vehicle. No matter if you're turning right and left or turning left or going straight, you have to have weight balance. If you don't have weight balance, you can't be efficient with managing your power, getting the power on as soon as you back to full as soon as possible, or if you're in a road race or a circle track car, stepping back on the gas as soon as you can. So to me, the weight bias and weight balance of a car is the most important thing. But Portlink is a huge part of that because you can change the center of gravity, or sorry, you can't change the center of gravity, but you can change where the four link picks up on the car, which then changes how the car works, opposed or to the particular center of gravity of that particular vehicle.
John, you definitely brought up something there that kind of piqued my interest, talking about, the concept that, kind of everything starts with the four link essentially outside the tires where the suspension kind of, hits. As, you're tuning on someone's car and you have to make, a tweak, where do you first go on the four link to make one of those tweaks, or not making big swings? Is there certain bars you want to make slight adjustments to? How do you
Well, back to
analyze that
being like in the
situation?
field of what I do with my tuning stuff at the racetrack on high horsepower door slammers. If I needed to make a move on it, well, best case scenario is that Jim and I and the guys at the shop have the car at the shop, and we measure, then we set up, then we give it our best guesstimate setup for what we think that car should have. Front and rear spread, up or down bar, weight bias front to rear, where the weight is in the car. If we can calculate where the center of gravity is close to in the car, um, and and how, and we have, with enough experience now, we have enough time and laps down the racetrack that, okay, well, this car should have a bar in it that's X up and, or X and Y out and up, and um, you get it in the ballpark. Okay, so how we take this is we get the thing in the ballpark, go out there, make a run, see what the data looks like. Oh, the shock did this. Oh, look at the front ride head sensor, it did that. Look at the shock sensors, it didn't do this or it did do that. And then you're like, all right, well, what's the worst what's the worst thing? What's the worst inefficiency we have going on in that run? It may be the power management. It may have went out there and like white smoked tires at the hit of the throttle or the button or the clutch or whatever you want to call it, right? Or it might have went whoa and then come up and like been a complete turd. So our logic on getting a car up and down the racetrack first, as a thinking about the car as a whole, um, we go to the most inefficient part of the run, fix it, see what comes up on the next run, get the next most inefficient part of the run, fix it, go up there again, get the next most inefficient, and so on and so forth, right? That may be the four link on the first hit. 9 times out of 10, it is not. That could be rear shocks, that could be front struts, that could be oh man, the engine's in the car really high, just it picked the front end up so quick, hit the wheelie bar, unloaded the tires. Okay, well, we might move the four link. We might move 30 pounds on the nose. You know what I mean? Every situation is different unless we're going out there and we know it's one of my brother's cars from G-Force and it's one of our engine packages from MSR and it's my gearing and the converter we normally run and it's on this tire and if the car weighs this much, most of the time within 3 to 5 runs they're going as quick as I have and it with the same type of package. So it's never one thing that you go to. It's a situational thing with each car for each situation. And like I said, that could be so many different things. But the way that we've always done it is tackle the least inefficient thing in that run and then keep doing that until your inefficiencies get less and less and less and less, working to the ultimate efficient car, which we all never have. So
So I just wanted to kind of drive a point home. I loved your thing about 9 times out of 10 it's not going to be the four link, but when I walk the pits at a radial race or whatever, there's so many people making four link adjustments. Do you think, in your opinion, that people might overthink and adjust four links too much?
100%. It's funny, like Billy Stockland and Jeff Pierce, two guys that have taught me a lot, and two guys that good friends with. Those guys call the four link bars magic sticks, and I think Billy actually coined the phrase, if I'm correct. But a lot of the times, is it a magic stick move, or did you put the magic sticks in the right spot? So, like I said, but in our world, you kind of have a real ballpark figure for a blown pro mod, a nitrous pro mod, a turbo pro mod with this much weight and this, that, and the other thing, or a radial car of any of those power adders also. You know what I mean? You got this spread and this bar and this, and some do different and some do other things. But it was funny and it was super ironic. Yesterday, I had a guy call me, and really nice guy from Virginia. He calls and says, I got a 1,200 horsepower top sportsman car, 105-inch wheelbase. I can't remember how much he told me it weighed, but a power glide car, something that is like just way different than I normally would mess with, right? So it was like I was wondering. I was like, I wondering if Brian and Brian told this guy to call me to like get brushed up on my four link box. I'm like, this is really weird. And like I said, those questions to me don't come that often, but it made me think. It made me prep for this show today, and the engine was in a similar spot that it is in a Pro Mod car, but the wheelbase was shorter. It had way more weight on the nose. So it made me think of all these things of, all right, well, he's got way less power, so he doesn't have the ability to pick up the front end, and he's got more front weight than we normally do. He's on a smaller tire. So this is this is how you tune all the time. You're you're assessing thousands of variables, and you're thinking about maybe 5 to 10 of the most important ones, and you have to make your best judgment on all of those to get the car to do what you're trying it to get it to do with the available data that you have from that car, whether it be no computer, onboard computer data collecting and you're watching the car run, or you have 64 sensors on the car and 3 different video angles and everything else. You have to assess the data that you have, um, assess your variables, and then make the brightest decisions that you can to accomplish your goal. With going back to that original question, the overthinking of the four link is huge because you can have the shocks in the same exact valving settings and change your four link position and make it look like you completely put a different set of shocks in the car. Although you haven't done one single thing to the shocks because the four link just does different angles on the bars do different things to the suspension, right? So um and vice versa. You can do things with the shocks that make the car look like it has a completely different four link in it. And those things are the things that you got to try and assess and say, all right, well, do I actually need to move the four link here? Or can I play with ride height to make the four link? Although you haven't changed the bolt hole locations and the four bars, you've changed the angles. Well, then that affects how the action reaction of the car accelerating off the starting line works and how much traction it has and so on and so forth. Or do you have to say, all right, well, let's leave the four link there because of I like the way that it picked the front end up, but it's not coming down, it's not squatting enough early to to give me traction on a big tire, let's say. And let's loosen the compression so the car comes down more. It pushes down harder on the back of the car. We get more um, traction. It has the potential to pick the front end up more and ride a wheelie. So you're on, you're without unloading the car on the wheelie bar. You have a better traction point. So those are all the types of things that I look at and I think about when I say, all right, does this need a move on the four link or does it need a move on any of these other situations that could or couldn't affect how you are trying to achieve your goal?
Well, John, I think that you have dropped a lot of knowledge on us, and I promise you that that phone call wasn't from one of our plants.
It did line up perfectly, though. I mean,
yeah, it did line up perfectly, but we did not do that. But man, you definitely have dropped a lot of good knowledge, and we appreciate you having on the show, and we'll definitely try to get you back on for a future broadcast for something that we can have you on as well.
Awesome. Anytime, guys. Wherever you like to do, whatever focal point, anything that I'm out there doing, I love talking about it and helping people out because there's no matter how successful somebody is, and no matter what they're doing, they've had a bunch of people that have helped them along the way, and that's the same for me. So
Awesome, man. We appreciate it for sure, and we'll see you at the track here real soon.
so that was really an interesting treat. He had a lot to say and a lot of good, I don't know if metaphor is the right word, but just a lot of good knowledge to throw down. I really loved his 9 times out of 10, it's not the four link. And then he just really dove deep into that subject and really, kind of expounded and blew it up. Wagner, what was your favorite part about that?
Again, listening to John talk, you get a lot of good information there, and the fact that you need to trust that you set something up right, and that if you're going to touch the magic sticks, it needs to be a very meaningful touch as well. And I think now that we've had this, that people should absolutely go back and watch our Radial tire shock episode to kind of tie some more information together, because these two subjects work hand in hand for sure.
Couldn't have said it better myself. I'm really glad you brought that up. But that does it for this episode. I just want to thank all of our guests this week. Thank all the viewers and listeners. Make sure to give us your feedback. Let us know what you think about each episode. And, feel free to pitch us some ideas. What do you want to talk about in the next episode? And make sure to check out all of our other shows on Speed Video. And we will see you on the next episode of Tech Inspection.